Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Inclusive Disability webinar. We're just gonna give people some time just to enter. So far, we've got 15 delegates, so we'll wait for others. Give them 2 minutes. It's a good time for you to check your WhatsApp or to put the kettle off, or it's a good time just to press send in those emails that you have not pressed send on.
All right, good morning, everybody. Just in the interest of time, I'd like to kickstart. We are 2 minutes after 10, so yeah, just a warm welcome once again to our members for joining this webinar and for taking the time to be with us this morning. Today's discussion is really around workplace inclusion in the GBS sector, which is really deeply critical for the growth of our sector, but it's also deeply personal to me and an area that personally resonates with me as well. So at Professor, we are committed to driving the growth of the GBS sector, a sector that continues to be a key driver of employment, innovation, opportunity in South Africa. However, growth alone is not enough. We need to ensure that this growth is inclusive and continues to create opportunity for individuals who are often overlooked, and particularly in this case, our youth and the people with disabilities. The GBS sector workforce consists of 67% women in employment. This is a remarkable stat, yet there is way more to be done. So just as we've made strides in gender representation, we must equally be intentional in increasing employment opportunities for individuals with disabilities. Today's discussion is about learning, benchmarking, and taking action. We'll hear from expert industry on this call today who will share insights, challenges, solutions that can help us to collectively build a more inclusive and diverse GBS sector, one where talent is recognized, developed, and celebrated, regardless of their background or their ability. So I'd like to encourage you to please engage with us, come on, share your thoughts, and be a part of the change. So over to our panel members on the call, I'd like you to kindly come off mute and introduce yourselves, and then over to you, Samkelo.
Excellent, thank you. Tess or Marlene or Zoe, who wants to start with their intro? Who you are, what is your bank PIN number, who you are, what do you do, and all those kind of things. Sorry about that.
Well,
please allow the ladies to.
Let's let the lawyer go. My name is Marlene Potgieter. I own a company called Equity Works, and for many years have been operating in the unfair discrimination space, so involved with employment equity and unfair discrimination. And the discrimination around disability has always been a massive big topic with the Department of Employment and Labour. But unfortunately, the strides that have been made in organizations have not been that good. In fact, at some stage, there was a negative trend on the hiring and promotion of people in organizations. So recently, on the 1st of January, actually, I always admire the Department of Labour on choosing the most improbable dates to promulgate the legislation. On the 1st of January of this year, good start to the year, they passed the changes to the legislation. And one of the important changes was the change to the definition of disability. So we've always known as lawyers that the definition is quite wide, but it was never actually spelled out properly. So now for the first time, and also, unfortunately, we always use the sign as a wheelchair for disability. So immediately when you ask people what's disability, this sign pops into their head, and the other whole broad spectrum of other forms of disability is not taken into consideration. So the definition has changed, and it's an incredibly important definition in that it includes intellectual, sensory, mental disability, and disability relating to neurodivergence, which has been around in the International Labour Organization since 2007 already. So we're really playing catch up. And the important thing, just from an organizational perspective, is people do not disclose their disability because of the fear of discrimination, is to really do some introspection and look at yourself and go, why is it that our people are not able to tell us when there is a disability in order that we may accommodate those people? And that's the whole idea, is not to disclose in order to discriminate, but to disclose in order to help and uplift and promote people and make people comfortable within the workspace. So the legal framework is really about accommodation and embracing people in order that people may reach their full potential. And with that little bit of background, that's me.
So thank you so much, Marlene. And just for the definition, if you don't mind just putting it in the chat box, it's just the bullet points under the new definition. We do have men and women here who've been eating carrots since they were born, so they'll be able to read the comments that you put in the chat box as well. Over to you, Zoe. Yeah, over to you, Zoe, and then Kaz will come over to you. Just a brief intro about yourself as well, Zoe.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me at this session. My name is Zoe Mfogazi. I'm from TransUnion Global Capability Center. I'm currently the head of operations. As part of my portfolio, I lead the learnership program, which has created, learnership opportunities for young people, unemployed young people. And, we've been fortunate enough to partner with organizations such as Brescia Leroux to, create even more opportunities for young people with disabilities or differently abled young people. And really our vision or purpose of this learnership program is to just empower and enable youth, and by creating training and learning and earning opportunities for them to build careers, also to just help young people with building their confidence and become confident professionals, and also to build a talent pool for future. And for me, it's really just about ensuring that everyone that is deserving of the opportunity, regardless of their abilities, is afforded that opportunity. So we just drive inclusiveness, we drive creating exciting opportunities, and I'll talk about the type of programs that we run later. But yeah, so I'm excited to learn from my fellow panelists, and also to just share a little bit of insights from our own learnings as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Zoe. And I like the part where you're going to also be sharing insights in some of the learnerships that you have run for people who are differently abled as well. And now over to you, Kaz, just brief intro about yourself, sir, and what your company does as well.
Thank you so much, Samkelo. It's really good to be here, and thank you to BPESA for allowing me to be a part of this session. My name's Kaz. I am the Business Development Manager and Skills Manager at Brescia Leroux Consulting. We are disability inclusion specialists, and thank you for the mention to Zoe. Yes, we have been on a on a path with TransUnion in terms of building a specific type of skill set for people with disability. So we advocate for people with disability, but we also support business from building an inclusive environment in terms of becoming more disability confident. And those areas that we need to look at in business is not just, perhaps HR. We need to look at line managers. The capacitation of every individual in an organization is important. You've got to look at things like, why is it important for people to disclose? What's the benefit for them? What's the benefit for the business? And what follows on after, the disclosure processes and things like that. So we support business, and we advocate for people entering mainstream economy employment through our supported structures that we have and consulting services. So thank you very much.
Well, that's wonderful, and we'll hear more as we do the session. Chanel, we call creating this, so please feel free whenever you want to ask something or you want to chip in. Before I ask my question as a facilitator, now that we've all introduced ourselves, I'm going to ask the people who are sitting on this call if on the chat, you can just tell us your name and your surname, and then also your role. What is the role you do, and from what organization are you coming from? Your name, your surname, and then also the role that you do, and then also what organization or what company are you coming from? And we're hoping that we've got diverse people that are sitting in this group. So if you can just put in the chat box, my name is so-and-so, my surname, this is my role, and this is the organization that I'm coming from. Yeah. Okay. And then while they're busy putting in, my first question to the panel is going to go like this. If we look around, what do you think is the status of disability in our country present? If the young people, the Gen Zs will ask it like this, are we there yet? So if just, again, I'm not asking from your company, but from the work that you do and what you've read and what you've absorbed, what you've observed currently, what is the status of disability or differently able yet? And then my other question, which is a very funny question, is if you have a colleague or an associate or a friend who's always, whenever he or she owes you money, they always say to you that the ATM was out of service. Or if you phone them or you send them a message and they never respond, their excuse is my battery was flat. Could those also be considered as a disability as well? This individual owes you money, but they will use words like, when I went to draw, the ATM was out of service. I didn't say the Capitec ATM, so I'm not sure why you're thinking that, but the ATM was out of service. Or when you phone them, they don't respond, they call it, oh, so sorry, my battery was flat and I forgot to charge it. Would those two be considered as a disability? So the main question is, what do you think is the status of disability in South Africa? But before you answer that, just say, Samkela, I need to give you feedback with those that disabilities or those are not. So anyone can start while people are busy entering in the chat who they are. The main question is, what is the status of disability in our country from your perspective, from what you've observed and what you, and anyone can comment, colleagues.
So Samkelo, from my perspective in the workplace, and I visit a lot of different places, there is not a lot of visibility around people who live with a disability. We can do a lot to make people, to integrate and to, what was the word that you used, Kaz? It was so nice. What did you say? Normalize. I thought it was a better word than normalize, actually. To integrate people. A long time ago, I was lucky enough to go to school in the US, and we played a game, and I can't. Oh, it was basketball against a school for the deaf, and it was an extraordinary experience. In my entire experience as a young scholar, I had never met people from any other abled school before. We don't integrate them as much in this country. And it was such a heartening experience that, you know, completely, you know, pardon my ignorance in what I'm going to say now, actually realizing that people play like we did. That was the level of my ignorance, that I have an other abled team against me, and I go, oh, wow, look, they actually play just like we do. And to kind of normalize that in the workplace, I don't think we're there yet, from my perspective. Kaz, what
Excellent.
was the word that you used?
Oh,
Thanks,
you
Marlene.
got me there. I can't remember, but I'd like to add to that and say that from Samkelo's question, the status of disability. I mean, for me, there's growing conversation in the South African market. You know, looking at globalization, looking at international trends, looking at international languaging, and things like that. Forums being, you know, at the forefront now. Conversations are happening, and to build disability confidence within individuals and business, conversations need to happen. Resources need to be shared, and I think it is happening. I do agree with Marlene that I don't think we're there yet, but who knows when we will be there. But as long as we are continuing these conversations and having these types of webinars and sharing lived experience. I mean, I don't have a disability, but I have lived experience of disability with my colleagues, with learners, students, you know, businesses and things like that. So I think it's important to understand that from a legislation point of view and the intentions of business, then just need to follow that up with the subsequent actions, and it needs to tie up. So following your intentions with proper actions, and I think that's why the work that TransUnion are doing and the initiatives, the way they are implementing certain projects is just amazing, and we can all learn from them.
No, thank you very much, Kez. I like the part where follow your intention with action as well. Over to you, Zoe. From your perspective, not necessarily TransUnion, what would you say is the status of disability, differently able in South Africa?
No, I definitely agree with the panel. It's progressive. We're not there yet. And I mean, I think we're never going to be able to fully 100% solve for it, but I do believe that there is great intention. And as Keza said, that intention has to then turn into action. It's a lot of navigating for organizations. There's a lot of learning, a lot of assumptions that need to be let go of. There's a lot of unlearning that needs to be done. So I think these conversations are really, really helpful for people like me who this is also a very new space, and a lot of learning that I've done in the past year of having hosting these specifically these learners that came from Operation Leroux, for an example. So there's a lot of unlearning and a lot of learning. And so I think these conversations are helping, but we also need to put, programs in place, actions in place, and follow through to make sure that we are very intentional with what we want to achieve.
Perfect. No, thank you. These are good, but we have to put programs and systems in place to assist. Tenda, thank you so much. Rendani has put it. I think what Kez had said was disability confidence. Can you recall that word, Kez? I mean, I'm also like a male like you as well. The only thing we remember is we remember the remote control where it is and the car keys. So the word that we had put in was disability confidence. My next question is going to be to the people who are in the chat box. Those of you who are within this sector, GBS and BPO, what would you say are some of your challenges with regards to disability or differently able? Me and Chanel and Keith, when we designed this session, we wanted to make it more practical. If you are working in the BPO GBS sector, what would you say for you are some of the challenges with regards to being differently able? And you can put your comments or your feedback in the chat box as well. When you put those comments or those feedback, you're helping Kez, you're helping Zoe and Malin to speak to those as well, but also you're giving insights to Keith and to Chanel to say, oh, wow, when we design a program, when we do talent, let's also factor this as well. So to summarize the question again, if you are on this call and you are from the BPO GBS sector, what would you say are some of the challenges? If you are a consultant, you might be working with a client presently, please do share some of those challenges as well. Are those culture challenges? Are those process and system challenges? Are those infrastructure challenges? Are those funding challenges? Just put in the chat box. Chanel, I'm not able to see it, so I'm relying on you if you can pick them up. What are some of the challenges in this sector? Only in this sector, please. Not in America, not in Ukraine, not in Baitbridge. In this sector, what are some of the challenges when it comes to disability? I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
Raised a really nice space. There's a lack of accommodation for those who are differently abled. There needs to be an awareness drive. And that was similar to what I said in my introduction. There's actually a legal obligation to do an awareness drive. The Employment Equity Act requires it. So when we do barriers analyses in the workplace, think about doing an actual disability awareness barriers analysis to test the level of awareness and to see where do we need to shift the bar. So that's a really interesting comment. And the beauty is we don't really need to reinvent the wheel. The International Labour Organization has had global conferences around this topic, and they've posted literally blueprints of what to do. So a step-by-step blueprint of how to implement an awareness program in the organization. And there is so much information out there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Malin. So I'm picking up accommodation. I'm picking up awareness as well. And Claiborne has said access to market. I'm just trying to do a sort of a needs analysis, what Africans call the Palen, with a blonde surname. We have to know a bit of African, especially if you're in Cape Town. So I want to spend time to those in the chat box. Can you please put it there? What do you see as some of the challenges with regards to disability in the workplace, even the consultants as well? Special welcome to Kevin Paul Porto as well. Thank you, Claiborne.
Yeah, and I
Other
just
people?
want to ask Tinashe,
sorry.
no problem. Tinashe, do you want to come in and add to your comment in the chat? Would you like to come on off mute? And Claiborne as well, I invite you to come in and contribute to our discussion. Tinashe, I see you. Over to you. Tinashe, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Okay, seems like there might be some audio issues on your side. Claiborne, are you able to come on?
Yes, I am. Good morning. Good
Okay,
morning. Good
good.
morning to
Good morning.
everybody.
Morning, sir.
Welcome.
Morning, sir.
Thank you so much for giving me that opportunity, Chanel. And yeah, lovely to be here. Great topic, very close to my heart, largely because, as Samkelo would know, we function within in the sector as a dev-to-dev outsourced call center, having launched the first dev-to-dev call center in Africa. We have basically taken up the risk that big organizations aren't willing to do, simply because the stigma attached to the disabled community is something that remains. And addition to our advocacy, as well as the sensitization that we work on and towards, we still find that when risk is mitigated in the way that we've gone about to ensure that organizations are able to see that this is something worth paying attention to. Our business model has been developed in such a way that the impact is evident from the word go. And I think Bepesa can really speak out loudly for DevTouch in that regard. But gaining the access to market with our model remains something that's very challenging because it's something so new. I don't know if any of you, Zoe, Marlene, or even Kaz, have heard of a dev-to-dev call center, but never mind an outsourced model. Just being able to partner with organizations where we say to them, look, the risk has been mitigated. The deaf community is behind us. This is the model. This is how it will work. The concept has been proven. How can we partner and how can we move this forward to create greater impact? There still is that resistance because there seems to be a risk attached to that, Samkelo. So I think if we can collectively address that, perhaps there would be a much better reception to the greater market. But yeah, that's really been our experience, that access to market. Massive challenge.
Thank you. Thanks, Claiborne. I'm hearing risk. I'm hearing impact, also perception as well. My sister, Judith Kutsie, I see your hand, Tinashe. I'm going to give over to you now. Sorry about earlier on. There must have been a technical glitch. Probably you are on cell C fiber, but I'll give you time to speak. Judith Kutsie, my sister is here. I would really like to hear your voice, Judith, to say, hey, these are some of the challenges we're seeing in corporate when it comes to disability. But over to Tinashe. Judith, no pressure. Judith Kutsie, when I grew up, there was a boxer called Freddy Kutsie. That's why I'm giving you a chance so that you also can share something as well. Over to you, Tinashe, and then Judith.
Thank you so much. Apologies, the unmute button was somewhere different, but thank you so much for being patient. So earlier, I just want the point that Marlene raised, right? So when people think of disability, right, the sign is a wheelchair, right? So in terms of workplace accommodations, that's all people focus on. But in terms of intellectual or mental disabilities, there are various accommodations that are needed in the workspace and are not being done. So hence my point on the awareness drive in BPOs and call centers that, yes, we're focusing, majority focus on, those who are differently abled in terms of movement, but there's much more that we need to do in the workspace, especially in terms of those with mental disabilities. There's certain work screens that they need certain environments, etc., that will allow us to accommodate them in order for them to thrive. So I think that's where we are missing. And I think going forward with the change of legislation, I hope there will be much more awareness and drive on that and how we can can introduce those accommodations in the workspace.
Excellent. No, thank you so much, Tina. Just to summarize, because I'm a facilitator and my bonus for March is linked to how I perform today. We began by saying accommodation. We said awareness. We said impact. And also we mentioned perception and risk as well. Thank you, Tinashe. You were spot on. Judith, do you want to say something or should we move on? Judith, my
No,
sister.
it's fine. Hi, hello.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm from Cape Town Society for the Blind, and I think the biggest misconception that we're facing at the moment is that people feel that blind people are unable to be integrated into a call center environment because of the accessibility tools that they need or the accessibility programs that they need to operate. So that's a huge stumbling block for us at the moment, and we're trying to overcome that, but we need support.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Judith. And again, around the perception and also just a specific reference to blind people. Dean, sorry, Motrat says, put a comment around buildings not accommodating people living with disabilities. Dean, thank you for your comment. Challenge, marginalized take on even from entering the industry as well. Nokwazi, you are very quiet. I awareness is Nokwazi. You come here and you are quiet as well. I know that some of you are joining this call, but you're busy with WhatsApp and you're busy with spreadsheet and other things. Really want to bring you back into the session as well. I'm going to give over to the panel now. You want to share any case studies or any areas of success? But I'm keen to start with Zoe first because they've been doing this learnership for people who have disabilities. So I'm going to give over to Zoe. Just at a high level, Zoe, what has Transunion done? Zoe, please help us with the pre. What did you do before? What do you do during, and what are you doing now going forward? So over to Zoe, and then I'll come to Marlene to say, hey, since I work in this field, these are some of the case studies that I've been dealing with, and over to Kaz then as well. Over to you, Zoe.
Thank you. So we currently have a learnership program, and it's open to all young people from different walks of life, whether with disability or without disabilities. But I think our breakthrough in ensuring that there is more inclusivity for people with disabilities or differently abled learners was the learnership program that we're currently running for cybersecurity. First of all, being a cybersecurity learnership program on its own means that we are building a talent pool for scarce skills. And we also then creating inclusive opportunity for differently abled people. I think for me, what we did it's something that was successful or is successful because of partnering with the right people. So this was a partnership between ourselves, Harambe, Brescia Leroux, and Pepesa. We were able to create this program to ensure that it is targeted at differently abled people, young people. There's about 10 learners that are currently in our business. So they have done 6 months of intense class training with Brescia Leroux. They've completed 2 international certifications, and they have now been allocated to be hosted by different departments within our business, ranging from technology governance to cybersecurity departments to IT infrastructure, process management, and so forth. And they will come out of this project at the end of the year, with practical work experience. And there's no way that they will not be employable, after, getting these skills. And that's why I'm saying our purpose is really just to build, a talent pool, but also enable them to be confident, professionals. So it's still a journey. We're still, walking the journey. The second thing, it was around awareness and also education. We also, again, partnered with Brescia Leroux to build a program for our managers that are directly managing these learners. They were equipped with disability confidence training, which just helps them to be a bit more confident in supporting these learners. I think also our environment, being a fully virtual environment, is a great advantage for us because we're able to accommodate different disabilities. We don't have to worry about a building and having certain accessibility requirements. So we're able to reach out or reach a wider pool of disabilities. But I think for me, it's less important about whether or not young people are disabled, but it's about affording and creating opportunity and access to opportunities to all, and especially young people with disabilities. They need to be, considered regardless, and to make sure that we help them build careers and build confidence, and also build confidence within our organization. Make sure that our managers, because I think just from a learnership perspective, managing a learner is challenging because they're new in a work environment, and as managers sometimes they're not really keen to take on learners. So when we equip them with the disability confidence training and we equip them with the support structures, it's easier to let these learners integrate into the business and create a great learning experience for them.
Thank you, Zoe, for sharing those insights with us. And just before we move over to Kaz, I saw Nkwazi had a hand up.
Yes.
Just want to check, would you like to come in and add to anything that Zoe's just shared with us? And we are unable to hear you.
Looks like she's on mute. Yeah. Should we move over to Kaz? Kaz, we're just sharing some of the case studies, some of the experiences, especially in the work that we do, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Samkelo. I think what Zoe. Sorry, I work with both of them.
Yeah. Sorry, this one is Zoe. This one is Zoe.
This one is Zoe. Yeah. I get confused with them. They're both the same to me.
Get confused all the time, so it's okay.
Guys, I think what I want to do is I want to bring it right down to the ground in terms of what needs to be done. We're talking about reasonable accommodations. We're talking about sensitization and building awareness and building confidence. So here's a question, and I'm not looking for an answer, but I just want to put it out there. How do we determine what an individual requires in the workplace to overcome a barrier? And for me, and for everyone, it's quite simple that we just ask them. When you are looking to build an inclusive culture, here's another question. When you have vacancies in business, is it open to anyone, whether they are a person with disability or not? Have you earmarked positions for people with a disability in your business? If that is the case, that is the wrong way to go about it. Because there are narratives that we really need to unlearn about disability. And Zoe mentioned it earlier as well. So these are things very simple. And if you have a pen, write this down. The narratives that we need to unlearn is that all disabilities are visible. And all disabilities are not disabling. You could have a disability, but it may not be disabling to you or to that person. All they may require, if there is a barrier in the workspace, is a reasonable adjustment, or the terminology that's going around now is a workplace adjustment or reasonable accommodation. And how do we figure that out? By simply asking the individual. We need to look at things like unlearn that disabled people are a burden. Inclusion is optional. It's not anymore. Looking at things like disabled lives need fixing. No, they are more than capable, and they are able, and they are motivated. The best problem solvers out there today are people with disability, because they have a barrier that they need to overcome on a daily basis. And disability is not a tragedy. Unlearn that. We need to build that inclusive culture by sharing experiences, talking about it, and having these important discussions and building awareness. So I know you asked me to share a case study, but I thought for myself it might be just to bring it back down to the ground a bit and just share exactly what people feel that have a disability when they are in the workplace. And then we can take discussions from there.
Yeah, no, but Kez, I think you've given practical examples where you said there's no need to fix, and just because I'm disabled does not mean that I cannot do certain things as well. Kez, just like Marlene, if you wouldn't mind just putting those bullet points, please, in the chat box as well. So to give your homework as a facilitator, we really want to make this a co-learning and a co-creation. Just
Yeah.
those comments you made, no need to fix, this does not, I think you've shared some pearls of wisdom, which for some of us need to sing. I mean, even for myself, when you said that disability is not a tragedy, tonight I'm going to tell my wife the fact that I forget to take the rubbish bin on a Monday, which is a disability, doesn't mean that it's a tragedy, because we can do a software to pick up the rubbish bin on a Monday. I don't need to be in the house to pick up the rubbish bin. Marlene, over to you. Marlene, you speak a lot around. Yeah, sorry, Chanel, and then I'll come Marlene. Sorry, Chanel, and then Marlene.
Please. No, by all
Mm,
means,
oh,
apologies, Marlene. I just wanted to just ask her to touch on something that we spoke about yesterday. I mean, we had lengthy conversations at the event yesterday, and Kaz, and forgive me, this is controversial, but he challenged me when I used the word differently abled, and just to you touched on it a little bit earlier on. But I'd like you to just come in and share your view on how you perceive the terminology differently abled opposed to people with a disability.
Yeah, thank you, Chanel, for putting me on the spot. I do appreciate it. So I'm going to say this. I was a bit harsh with you yesterday. It's not a wrong term to use. However, why put it in a class? Because if I write with my right hand and if you write with your left hand, who's differently abled? The left-handed person or the right-handed person? But we're both still able to write. So from a global perspective, in terms of languaging, it's a person with a disability. Okay. Are you going to put them in a category of being differently able? They're still able if they have a reasonable accommodation in place or a reasonable adjustment, or they have a tool and assistive device or some assistive technology to overcome that barrier that they face. They are able. So, Chanel, again, I'm going to say I was a bit harsh. It's not a wrong terminology to use, but let's not put it in a class.
Okay. Excellent. No, thank you. Then I'm going to go over to Marlene. Don't forget to do your homework in the chat box. So far, we've got about 31 people that are still logged in the call. That's a good sign. That means for some funny reasons, we're keeping them engaged. Either it's a rand dollar rate or it's a flight to America, but they're still sitting on this call and they're listening to us. Marlene, something around barriers and those things, especially in your own practical examples, and also as a lawyer in employment law, just practical examples that you can give where we get it wrong from a legal perspective, Marlene.
Yeah, there are a few things I wanted to touch on. So the first one was a comment by Claiborne and around access to market and risk. And sometimes it requires for organizations just to take a leap of faith. And I want to give you a few examples. Also touches on a comment that somebody else made on how to include autism, and I want to give you two unbelievable examples, and bipolar disorder. So the comment said that autism is not always seen. That's not true. Autism is quite visible in the workplace, and so is bipolar disorder. Trust me, you can see it when it happens in organizations. And I deal with one or two companies where they have a much greater capacity for divergence of any form than, say, some quite corporate, I won't name any particular corporates, but some corporate kind of environments would embrace. And it's quite interesting that kind of flexibility and creativity that advertising companies have also allows them to embrace the other. So one example, we had somebody who was severely autistic. And the reason why we realized that he was autistic is because he was always late, chronically late. And the staff got really upset because they accommodated his lateness, because he said he couldn't get to work on time because there were too many cracks in the sidewalk. So it took him longer to get to work because he had to navigate the cracks. And at work, if he got anxious, he used to bang his head against his computer so alarmingly that he really would do himself harm. His forehead would start bleeding. And a lot of people, because we don't know how to confront that in the workplace, we get angry. So some staff members got really angry, and the company did a huge amount of work to sensitize the staff around this. He was extremely good at his job. Something about what he was facing made him concentrate in a way that other people were not able to concentrate. So when he did his job and when he was focused, when he didn't get frustrated, he was he was so focused, much more so than most people in the organization. And what was amazing is one person in the organization embraced him. And whenever he got into this funk where he banged his head against the laptop, she actually went out of her way to go find out how to manage that. And she literally mothered him a little bit in the organization. And perhaps if it hadn't been for that person, it would have been harder to accommodate him. But there always is such a person in the workplace. That's the one example I wanted to use. Then to your point, Kaz, that people with disability overcome their disability in a way that is completely astonishing. I have a friend who's a quadriplegic. He was extremely high up in a very big IT company. And how he got there sometimes would leave me gobsmacked. He couldn't pick up a cup to drink his tea. That's how disabled he was. But he drove a car. There were a few dings in his car. But he managed with a ring and a magnet on his ring to open the door, get his wheelchair in the car, drive the car. It was a stick shift. It wasn't a wheel, so he couldn't hold a wheel. So the risk that we need to take, Claiborne, sometimes is just invite somebody in, engage with that person, and then work around it. So another company of mine partnered a local school where people were challenged with learning disabilities. So their level of development was very often not beyond a standard 9, a grade 11, listen to my age, grade 11 or grade 10. And, but also extremely focused and happy, unbelievably happy people. I don't know, it was so amazing. These people like literally bounced into the organization and were just happy all the time. Sometimes when we think too much, life gets the better of us, and this kind of just general demeanor around the people that we did embrace, and sometimes just taking that risk, inviting people into our midst, and then managing it, and having some people who are broad-minded enough to embrace whatever one needs to embrace in order to accommodate these people is just the risk that we sometimes need to take. So I thought just sharing like 2 or 3 like practical examples of what people have done, that it is possible to reasonable accommodation does not have to be a hectically technical legal term. It's got to be practical and custom built. So diversity management is about looking at who's in front of you and managing that person.
What I like about from the 3 of you, from Zoe saying, when we engage on this program, this is what we did, and this is how the pre, during, and also the post. Also, I like when Kels gave us the use of that word unlearn, some narratives and discourses, and now you, Malin, giving us practical examples of people who have also overcome. I want to step back now and give a chance for people who are in the audience. You can ask any questions either to Malin or to Zoe or to Kaz colleagues. We really wanted to make this session not to be an adult top-down one. Wanted to make it a practical session. So I'm giving over to the audience. If you've got problems with your mic, you can put it in the chat box, or you can just go off mute and just ask your question. Anyone, over to you, colleagues, right now. Chanel, I think that's fair that we give them a chance to ask the questions now. So audience, over to you. Questions that they cannot answer. They will not tell you how much tariffs will South Africa get from Donald Trump. They're not going to be able to answer those questions. So please keep the questions to being differently able. And also they won't be able to tell you when it's going to be your next Christmas gift as well. So please, over to the audience now to ask questions. Karabo, Joseph, Commissioner, Kevin, any questions? Yeah.
Did Dean want to come on mute and add something? I think I may have seen it. Sorry to put you on the spot. Seems like I'm doing that this morning.
Hi, everybody.
Kevin. Hi, good morning, Kevin.
Hi, good morning. Yeah, I mean, so I do feel somewhat guilty, and I guess I'll be the only one to really put up my hand. I don't go out looking for, somebody that's like blind or disabled or whatever. We put out interviews, and depending on what comes back, we just interview. So I guess there is a bit of hand-holding, in my opinion, that needs to happen from HR. Specifically, there is a little bit more of an effort that needs to be made to source these candidates and individuals. And yeah, I think being a BPESA member, you know, we need to make it a bit more intentional than anything else. So that's something I'm definitely taking away from this meeting. And I'm the CEO of Lead Life, so it's gonna be way up there for our next candidate. Hopefully, we can find not someone applying, but we can go out and look for somebody that is disabled in some capacity or form, not for BEE's sake or whatever, but you know,
Yeah.
this is how we are doing things now as members of BPESA. But apart from that, I just wanted to open up something a bit that I think we don't talk about, and it's more the looking at the level of companies that are on here. And maybe this is just something for BPESA or also to take back a bit. Like if you were to look at my company as an example, we're still seen 4 years later as a small SMME. You know, like we're still seen as small. There are certain things in our company that forces us to be seen as a disabled company, not just as a, you know, hiring disabled people, because we can't afford what other companies can afford. So somebody put something in. Somebody said something in the chat. I think it's one of the first things that we put in the chat, and it borders on to what I'm about to say now. I have all the experience and skills. I have so much skills from a key individual perspective. So I'm accredited from a FSCA perspective. For those who knows the financial sector, from a property real estate perspective, I'm very close to being a principal. So I'm able to train and coach and give skills and equip people. My challenge is I can't hire as many people as the government has a need to make an impact for. So I need people. I just can't afford to pay for those people on the numbers to make the impact. So I'm going to make an example. I can take on 50 people today, right? That will be making calls, that I'll be giving skills, and after 2 years, they can become either a rep, like a broker, as an example, or they can work for any insurance company, or they can become real estate agents. So I have that. But I can't afford, like another company can afford. We just came from a BPESA, what do you call it? I think last week or the week before, where companies that could afford to pay to hire people. Let's say another company mentioned they hired 100 people. The government gave them funding as an incentive for hiring people. We couldn't afford that. We couldn't afford to hire 100 people and wait for an incentive from the government. You know what I mean? So there's different types of categories for BPESA members. You get a member that is doing really well, that can engage into making a difference by hiring 100 people. 100 people would cripple my business tomorrow. You know, because
sorry, Kevin, if I understand you correctly, something around being an SME, but also the funds and the resources to employ those people. But also you began by saying that you feel guilty. And for some fundraising, I think you went to the Pope and then you did some confession, and you say now it's going to be right on top of your list going forward as well. I'm gonna leave over to Chanel to speak around the job post, or to connect with you indirectly to say what programs can you do with the FESA if you were to able to bring more people. So please connect with Chanel on that one. Is there any question from the audience? Marlene, I'm trying to give the audience to ask questions. So the first one is something around our members in BPESA. How can we help them to employ more people who are disabled, especially those who are SMEs? I've taken note of that. But any other questions from the audience, please, people? Any other questions from the audience? Yeah, go ahead.
So my name is Dean. I've been in the industry now for about 24 years. And over the last couple of years, I've experienced the challenges of, obviously, as I said, marginalized, the individual being marginalized, because I've been approached by certain training providers in order for me to take on individuals that had disabilities. I don't want to go into types of disabilities,
Mm,
but
mm,
that's why I said it's marginalized, because a number of companies or operators within the industry didn't want to take these guys on. And what's his name? Kaz mentioned earlier,
yeah.
it's also with regards to, ensuring that we have the right management team to, that are equipped enough to obviously take on or deal with these individuals. When I say deal with them,
Yes.
to be able to work with them to
Mm,
ensure that they reach their full capacity as well.
okay.
You've seen that I'm also I'm an operator in the BPO space, but I've
Mm-hmm.
also just started up a training academy. And based on all of these experiences in the past, we've now started putting together an incubator that can address these types of concerns,
Okay.
And then also coming to what Kevin's mentioned is that, yes, the challenges is that as much as we want to take on 50 individuals, 100 or 50 candidates, 100 candidates, it's the funding capacity that needs to come into play as well.
Okay.
So
Sound.
yeah, so
I,
the thing at the end of the day, and I think Kevin will back me up here. We we want to do as much as we can, and not only Kevin, I believe other
Adam,
operators
yeah,
that
Adam,
are on the
yes, you're
call.
right. Yeah.
We want to do
Yeah.
as much as we can within the industry
Mm,
to ensure that we can or basically ensure that we are able to take on these individuals with whatever the disabilities are, but more importantly, is have the management staff trained or well equipped enough to deal with this.
Good.
Because if
Okay.
we
No,
can do
thank you, bro.
that, we can obviously ensure that we can, there was something mentioned yesterday in the VP that we were at in the waterfront, is
Yeah.
that at the end of the day we want to make sure that we can do the best, or take on enough people
Mm,
within the industries, equip them well enough.
mm,
So
mm.
that's what I'm trying to get at. If I'm making myself clear enough.
Got you. No, you're very clear. The first part I heard from Kevin was around funding, resources and infrastructure team. You are raising an issue around the leadership, how to manage these people, how to coach, how to provide support. So how do we train management when we do these things? Maybe Chanel, later on you can speak to that. I'm really trying so hard to get other challenges from the members who are sitting here when it comes to people who are differently able. But also I can see that some people have joined using their AI devices. So I see two names. So they could be somewhere else in a holiday in Mauritius, but their devices listening on this call for them as well. I see Hitesh here. I'm keen to hear from you, Hitesh, as a business, as an operator. What are some of the challenges that you have around differently abled employees? But I don't know any other person. I'm going to take one more, and then I'm going to give over to Zoe or to Kaz or Malin to respond to some of the challenges, and also you, Chanel, as well, to respond to some of the challenges that have been raised as well. One more challenge. Anyone wanting to raise a challenge around disabled employees?
So, Samkela, one of
Anyone
the
else?
key
Yes.
challenges that we do face is, there are a lot of disabilities that are not visible on the face of or physically visible, if I may say. And a lot of our employees are hesitant to share information about their disability because they feel there's a stigma attached to it, or this will be held negatively against them. And it's always a constant battle or challenge in educating people, no matter how many sessions you do to educate, that this is just to help us create better systems for you, or provide you some kind of support in our workspace, but employees are hesitant in sharing information, and that's been a constant battle for us for the last many years.
Yeah, well said. I will give over a chance for others to respond. Something that I thought was going to be mentioned as well the challenges of staff members when they have a member who joined their team who's differently abled. So now somebody's been put in our team who's differently abled. How do we communicate? How do we relate? I've seen scenarios where if somebody who's deaf, they start speaking very slowly to the person. I might be deaf, but I'm not stupid. So to Dean's point, helping management, but also how do we help the team? I remember when I worked with Deaf South Africa, what they did, they even brought a project officer to educate us as staff on how to relate with that person. So Kaz, Zoe, Malin, issues have been raised, your feedback and your comments on those. And you can pick at any, and please, Kaz, Malin, feel free to add what your other colleague has said. Something around funding, around promotion and management of people. And Hitesh mentioned the issue of employees are scared to declare that I'm dyslexic or I'm autistic because of the implications as well. Okay, over to you, colleagues. And Chanel, you can also add as well. Anyone can start.
Go first, and I'll speak just as a manager, managing people with disabilities. I think the most important thing is we need to realize that it's people first. The person is a person first before any other abilities or disabilities that they have. And I think if we have that approach, we then able to relate to them as a person. And also I think team members, you mentioned about team members having a new team member in their team who is got a disability. That sensitization is really important. That preparation and awareness is really important. And I will definitely, and Claiborne has just also emphasized that the point around partnerships. It's so important to partner with organizations or make sure that the specialists within an organization, if possible, who will help with creating that awareness, creating that education, have portals where you teach or not sort of portal sessions where you teach about different abilities and disabilities. In our organizations, we have what we call knowledge shares, where we talk about different disabilities, and we have people sharing from their own experience. So I think education is important, approaching the person with the disability and treating them as a person first, and treat them as how you would want to be treated is so important. Their disability is not their identity. They are a person way beyond what they physically look like, or or unable, even though some of the disability we're able to see, they are a person beyond that disability. So that's just from my perspective as a manager.
And Malin, yes, thanks, Zoe.
So Zoe, that's beautifully put and exactly right. It's about the individual. So Claiborne, you said something in your chats about intentionality, and it's also about being proactive. Don't wait until something happens to then go, oh my gosh, we've got to do a sensitization session here. Do it regularly. In an organization, make it part of an initiative that you do regularly, like we do wellness days or mental health days, or do awareness and unfair discrimination days, where you know what unfair discrimination means. We're not born to discriminate. It's a social construct. We're taught to discriminate, and discrimination comes from assumptions that we make. So if we remove those assumptions, and if we actually get the people that are targeted by this to speak up and present to the rest of the organization, or there are so many NGOs that help in this space. We've had amazing speakers in organizations just to come up and talk about their own experience. And to do it regularly, number one. Number two, to do a regular barriers analysis. So what are the barriers that people experience? What is it that you face on a daily basis? And make sure that they're confidential, that they're anonymous, that people can actually speak up. People are so wary of questionnaires and responding accurately to questionnaires if it's not properly handled. But if you do it with a good intention, and the intention is to address what happens, then confidentiality and anonymity are absolutely key. And we've seen really positive results in organizations that do this on a regular basis where the intention's good. I mean, it's the same around sort of HIV awareness. We have so much discrimination around HIV, which is still much more prevalent than people believe. To do the same thing around mental health and also disability regularly and speak to staff about it and engage staff about it is so important.
Apologies, colleagues. My camera is not working. I just want to find out if I am audible, though.
Loud and clear.
Excellent. I think I just want to second, what Zoe has said and Marlene. To be intentional in this sort of environment is a key driving factor to building an inclusive, confident culture in business. And I agree with Marlene in saying that there are businesses out there in South Africa that are leaps and bounds ahead of others. And they've done it through being intentional and wanting to achieve a certain level of inclusion in their business. And we can further segment that in terms of how they did that is from intentionally increasing awareness within the different levels in an organization, starting at Exco, looking at senior managers, then intentionally developing awareness with line managers, HR awareness, understanding recruitment strategies, and how to communicate with people, again, is quite intentional. And if you take that path, I definitely think business will become more confident, more inclusive, and people with a disability would want to work for those organizations and bring their skills to those types of organizations. They will also feel more confident in working for that environment and will increase disclosure numbers in that business. We've got a percentage that we need to achieve of 3% representation. A lot of companies out there, and I may be generalizing, but don't believe that they are at the 3%. It's probably because people haven't disclosed. So, we can go on and we can advocate for people to be in relevant jobs that is not just a file room clerk or an assistant next to you to help you with printing. No, let's look at meaningful jobs. Let's look at in-demand skills. Let's build the scarce skills that's required for talent pipeline. We've got too many business administrators at the moment. Is it, amounting to proper employment for people with disabilities? The intentions are good. I think delivery could be better. I think common practice at the moment is bad practice, and I might be putting myself on the chopping block. But I think from a best practice point of view is we need to support, we need to coach, we need to mentor, not just people looking for employment, but business as well.
Thanks, Kaz. I'd like to add on, and Samkelo, again, you were on mute. But I'd like to add on to what Kaz was saying about disclosure. And, in my previous place of employment, my manager at the time asked me, so I am a person living with a disability, unseen. And my manager at the time asked me if I could please get a copy, a medical certificate declaring my disability because they needed to proceed with the BBBE application. And immediately I felt like I was a tick in the box exercise. And so, and also with someone that is self-conscious with what I live with, my barrier, I've always found it easier to isolate myself. So when I joined Bepesa, I did not disclose my disability. And I was elated that I was selected, they appointed me because they saw me, not because of my disability and what I can do for the BBBE scorecard. And so I think it was Kevin or someone else mentioned that there is definitely a lot more from an HR perspective, a lot more capacity building that needs to take place within organizations. And like Kaz was saying, from executive level down, not upwards, bottom up. It can be from top down as well. So I think definitely there's a lot of more desensitizing that needs to take place, and a lot of capacity that still needs to take place in organizations.
Thank you very much, Chanel. Do you have any feedback or guidance for those small operators or SMMEs who would like to get more infrastructure or funding? Are there any BPESA programs that they can participate in to employ people who are disabled? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Chanel. Do you have any feedback or guidance on that one? So if I'm sitting here, I'm a small operator, I've got 10 or 20 people, but for me to, somebody said I can even bring up to 50, I would need funding for that. What guidance would you have for those ones?
You are putting me on the spot. I did not expect that.
Okay, no, it's fine. No, don't worry. We can take that one offline with the respective with the respective factor. My next question, I'm gonna move into employees who are disabled or differently able. Whose responsibility is disability? Is it an HR responsibility? Is it a line manager responsibility? This issue, this topic we're talking about now, in companies, in businesses, who is responsible for it? But before I move on, I don't want to ignore my colleague Judith Kutsie on practical advice that we can also do at work, even for people who are blind. Judith, do you have 1 or 2 points you want to add for employees who are blind in the workplace? I've seen people looking after the guide dogs, taking care of the dogs, bringing them water. And I've been worried, what about the employee who is blind in the workplace as well? Sorry to put you on the spot again. Judith, do you want to add anything? What can we do practically for employees who are blind? Then I'll come over to Claiborne for deaf, and then I'll come to you colleagues as well. Judith and Claiborne, what can we do for people either who are blind or who are deaf in the place of work? And please keep it very succinct. Are you still here, Judith, or have you left the country?
Judith is not on the call.
Not yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Kevin, Claiborne, at a high level, what can we do practically for those employees who are deaf who have joined our organization at a high level, say? Then I'll come to the panel. Claiborne, it looks like you've also been within a Capitec ATM machine. Kaz, Zoe, and Marlene, is disability an HR responsibility? Or what have been some of the things where we think we've missed? When I say HR, I mean our friends in training, our friends in recruitment, our friends in talent management. But sometimes we see our friends in HR running all around, doing this awareness thing and trying to help, but line is not, well, even now, very few heads of business are joining this session. Samkelo's question is this an HR issue? And if you say no, please tell us whose issue is it? And please don't use words like we must hold managers accountable. What does it mean to hold leaders and managers accountable? Because we use these clever words like we must be intentional, but what are the behaviors and actions for being intentional? So over to you, Marlene, to Kaz and Zoe, whoever wants to start.
So Claiborne raised his hand, Samkelo.
Oh, he's come back, okay.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can now. Yeah, audible.
Oh, right. Awesome. I think Samkelo, just on the question that you posed at us, you know, I'm a strong advocate for nothing about us without us. Allow the community to speak for themselves. Do not take a blanket approach that you think works. Get it from them and go jointly develop the culture. Because for me personally, the culture issue, along with various other challenges that is faced, but when we can get to the root of that culture and start developing from that perspective, I think you as an organization would find solutions that's more adapted to your organization and that would accompany anything that your organization seeks to accomplish. So nothing about us without us. That would be the approach.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Ope has put a comment as a facilitator working with both individuals with disabilities and those without. I'm often asked, I've worked with people like them before. I believe it's important for companies to embrace all individuals, to recognize that people with disabilities don't want to be defined by that condition. My condition is not my identity. My condition is not my identity. They want to be seen for their abilities and contributions to the workforce, not their disabilities. Marlene, Zoe, Kaz, is this topic, is this issue an HR issue? What's your take? Who wants to start?
I do. I feel very strongly about it. Companies are very quick when something gets uncomfortable, when it discomforts them, to go, over to you, HR, sort this out. I think it's a company-wide strategy. And it starts at the top. There's got to be strategic direction. To invite people into your organization, people with disabilities, then B, to embrace people and understand what the needs are, if there are any needs, to that comment by Opie. Maybe, you know, as I think, Kaz, you said, some of the most able people around are the so-called disabled people. So it's got to be a strategic directive, and everyone must take responsibility for it. It's too easy to say this is yet again an HR issue. And the practical strategies are to have a strategic direction, number one, from top level, that we're going to embrace people and hire people and accommodate and promote from within. Secondly, to adopt a zero tolerance program for any form of unfair discrimination, and to actually tell people that. So an induction doesn't mean telling people how to switch your computer on. Induction means this is our culture, this is what we do, this is what we don't do, this is who we embrace, and this is who we don't diss in our organization. Then have ongoing awareness, but as a strategic thing, not just saying we will create awareness. Put it in your diary and say when you're going to do it. August is Disability Month, and that's when we're going to do awareness around this. And literally, I consulted a company yesterday where the financial director actually had an entire HR initiative diary that she put up. This is what we're doing in June, this is what we're doing in July, and tackling various issues. So put it in the actual diary. And then equip people and have pamphlets, have numbers that people can phone if there is something that's uncomfortable. We had a very uncomfortable situation once, which I don't really want to share on an open platform, but have the kind of people that you can approach when something does happen. That's when you approach HR, when you've actually thought about it and you've embraced it, and you go, I'm facing this issue, and you ask HR to partner you. You don't outsource it to HR, and have sort of a company-wide approach of inclusion on an ongoing basis. And then lastly, have a venue, a forum, a place where people can raise issues in a safe way that doesn't like heap a whole lot of attention on them, but where it's solutions driven, and I'm raising this because I actually need some help.
Thank you so much, Marlene. I like the practical advice, and also the example you shared about the financial director, where the diary as well, and also the lastly, have a venue, have a space so people can say, Zoe, can you please link your answers to the program, the learnership that you've run as well, to say, practical, this is what we did. It was not only in HR and learning, but we got finance involved, we got IT involved. Yeah, so yeah, over to you, Zoe.
Thank you. So I agree. It's definitely it's everyone's responsibility, and everyone needs to take part in creating a safe environment, a psychologically safe environment for people with disabilities. But also it's the manager's responsibility to research, to find knowledge and seek knowledge in terms of how to navigate certain challenges. HR doesn't have all the answers, and Marlene put it very well when she said that there has to be a strategic directive. It has to be something, and even if it's included in part of the scorecard, what are you doing to create a safe environment for your employees with disabilities? So managers have to be held accountable, and practical way of holding them accountable is measuring what systems are they putting in place to create. So what we've done, as mentioned earlier, we have made sure that there is there are various platforms within TransUnion where there's a lot of educational information around different disabilities, around divergence, and then we've got knowledge shares, knowledge sessions, and we've also, partnered with Bretchel Leroux to have an actual session specifically designed for managers that are managing our learners with disabilities to create, to build that confidence, to build that disability confidence for them. So there's that material that was shared with them. There's that one-on-one session that they facilitated session that they had, and so we just keep on continuing to build on that, to just build that confidence. You're muted.
Sorry,
don't
that's a
wanna talk.
disability. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Zoe. Over to you, Kaz.
Thank you, Samkelo. Marlene said it very well, and I want to resonate that. What is good business practice? Is disability inclusion or inclusion in the workplace good business practice? Yes, it is. Where does that start? From a strategic level. Who is accountable? Everyone in an organization, from EXCO to senior managers to HR and to general employees. Each have their role to play, maybe slightly differently in terms of understanding how to manage, how to cope. But it is important to start that conversation, have a clear strategic objective with intentional disability awareness, sensitization, and building confidence, and understanding what you want to achieve. So follow your intentions specifically with your actions to those objectives. But it's everyone in an organization. It is definitely not just an HR issue.
Excellent. Thank you very much, colleagues. Chanel, do you want to say anything before I ask the last question and then we go to close? Do you want to add anything around this one? Are you cool?
I'm good. I'll come in
Excellent.
on the closing. Thank you, Samkelo.
And then my last question, the panel, you've been a star, but this question now is for all of us now. So we've said in this setting, we've said all the right things. We've given all the practical examples. When this call is finished, when this meeting is finished, what can we practically do? Can you please give 3 things, either in the chat or you go off mute, that this is for all of us, that we can practically do, especially on being inclusive for people who are differently able. This is for all of us, Chanel, Sabir, Rafiq, Temeshne, Kevin, Tessa, Hitesh, Tinashe. What can we practice? Because normally these calls, they run to 90 minutes and it's before the end. People say, they sometimes use the word, they say, I've got a hard start. You think that they talk about a hard end or I've got a hard stop. You never know, but I need to go off to another call. So I'm asking now, before we finish the call, what can we, and I'm holding us accountable. I like what Dean said and Kevin said. He said, I've learned, I'm going to put it on top. What can we practically do when it comes to inclusive and differently abled employees? Only 3 things, either put in the chat box or go on mute. Mildred, Sean, Taryn, think what can we do practically, colleagues? Either in the chat box or, because we say all the right things here, we use words like awareness, words like accommodation, and these are nice words to use, colleagues, but nothing happens. So what can we do practically? And please, we know that when this call is finished, we have to press the button that is red called leave. So please don't say practically, I must press the button leave. We're not talking about that. We're saying with regards to differently able, what can you practically do in your space or in your call? Either go off mute or go on the chat box, colleagues, please, and I'll wait for the comments. Who wants to start? Kesa, Tinashe, Mildred, Nakungu, Tarin.
Marlene, okay. I'll give the audience an opportunity. Go for it.
Yes.
Marlene said, make sure that I follow up with some of my clients to see if they have a strategy on disability. So Michelle said, learn more, ask, and do not assume.
Yep. And you can go off mute, by the way. Yeah. Yeah. You can also go off mute as well, just to give us those practical things that we can do, even in this sector, to become more inclusive with people who are differently able. Mildred, are you still here? Motfatsi, Taren, Sean, Sabir. I'm sitting with AI listening software here, so I'm never sure who's here and who's in Ukraine.
Another comment in the chat, ask some of my clients to do a barriers analysis around disability to see what is the level of awareness.
Okay.
Keller, I promised I would do more listening than talking, but I must admit it's been very, very difficult. I've been itchy in my seat here. So I'll also just kick off with a few things that are practical suggestions. I think the one is BPESA will be implementing a skills intelligence hub. And I think the intention about that is to provide information, intelligence that helps us to progress different areas. And certainly, I think about this webinar and the rich information we received today, we would like to be able to aggregate that. So I would push on everybody. I think if we have success stories, and one thing that's passionate from my own perspective is not just the barriers, the challenges, but the return on investment. The data is very clear globally. Inclusive can do for organizations when it comes to innovation levels, when it comes to even revenue generation. Accenture's got a wonderful report that released in 2023 that talks about a 26% increase in revenue for those organizations that are more committed to inclusive hiring, especially. I think the skills intelligence hub, keep things coming, send things our way. We have got a disability handbook that we are working together with Harambee on, that we would like to develop with the sector. And the second, I think, aspect that I am just passionate about, if I think about my own disability around data and aggregating and providing rich information, I leveraged technology like ChatGPT and many other generative AI tools just me. You know, it's incredible when I watch YouTube on a night by night basis on all the cool technology that's coming through and tracking through, particularly for people who don't have sight, for example, and Microsoft's AI that helps people who are unsighted to see what's in front of them. I'm interested to hear what we as a sector could do and what BPESA could do. So I'm keen also for participants to let us know what expectations you have of BPESA in this area as well, and what you would like us to do. Would you like to see more webinars, for example, more topics like this, sharing of best practice? So keen to hear that too. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kate, and I like the fact that you've given practical things that we can. I like the idea of an intelligence skills hub that our members and our people can also go to either. Anyone else, colleagues on practical? Because the last part, I want to give the panel members to make their closing remarks. To Marlene and to Kev, you can just put that one slide that's got your contact details if you're able, if you've got that functionality, or even in the chat box, Kev and Marlene, the name of your company, your email address, I think it's your LinkedIn profile, and also my daughters are teaching me now, your Instagram handle, your Facebook, and all of those. My girls are teaching me this now, you know. So if you don't have a slide, just put it there, Marlene and Kaz, put it in the chat box, please, your Instagram handle. And I always think of a handle as something that you hold, you know, but there's no Teddy, you've missed a plot, you're so clueless. It's not like that, your LinkedIn. So that people who are sitting on this call, Marlene and Kaz, if they want to contact you more and learn more, how can they do that? And your email addresses, and please for now, don't put in your DNA sample, don't put in your head type, and don't put in your bank PIN number. Anyone else wanting to add? Good. So now we're going to go on to the, Chanel, are you fine if I go on to the closing remarks, or do you want to say anything?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Just some really insightful comments that came through the chat. But I think we've covered it all. Just before Sam Keller goes into closing from us, I thank you so much, especially to our members, for taking the time out to join us. And I see one of the comments was, please add more webinar to upskill. So most certainly I will make a note of that, and that will be part of our next sort of strategy when we plan these kind of events. To our panel members, thank you so much for coming on board. I know that time is also equals money, but thank you so much for availing yourself to be a part of the discussion. And then just around the funding part, Sam Keller, I will also leave my contact, my email address in the chat. BPESA, we do have funding available for funded skill programs. We have a target to reach to increase the employment of people with disabilities in the workplace. For the year 2025, our target is 1.25% of people with disability. And yesterday, Kat challenged me and said, why not 3%? So I need people like you to help me get there. So I'll leave my contact details in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to me.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm going to give over to the panel member. I want to start with Zoe. Zoe, just well done on this learnership program. What I liked about it, Zoe, this one, it was quite complex. Also, it went to technology and cybersecurity. So it was not your typical one, learning about how to be a tourist guide and learning theory and carrying manual. So I just want to give over your closing remarks to you, and then I'm going to give over to Marlene, and I'll give over to Kaz as well. So Zoe, officially, you now have the closing stage.
Look at me. I've made it.
Yeah. Yes.
First of all, thank you, Professor, for the opportunity to speak at this webinar, and thanks to the audience for engaging. Thanks to my panelists, lots of learning, and I look forward to more partnering and working closely with Kez and Brescia Leroux. I think we still have a long journey ahead. I think my key takeaway from this is what Marlene has said about our barriers analysis, and that's something that I've learned today. That is something that's really critical for us to be able to continue to creating these opportunities for young people with disabilities. And I think, as mentioned, I can never stress this enough. It's so important to have a good network of partners, collaborate and partner within the industry with experts that can help you achieve these goals. I know that you said it's a big word. We use it a lot of time, but being intentional. And I think being intentional means you know what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve, and you put strategies in place to achieve it. And lastly, I think it's about teaching and learning as organizations, as managers. We need to continuously create awareness and create learning platforms and create, resources where, our organization continues to learn and thrive, in building an inclusive environment.
So, thank you very much, Zoe. So, Marlene, over to you, Wena.
Thank you. Thank you, Samkelo, for a very good facilitation of a group of people. Really enjoyed meeting all of you. A fantastic, rich discussion, and I learned a lot. And thank you to all the participants for engaging so well with us. It's wonderful to sit in a room where we actually get feedback rather than staring at a black wall, and some fantastic suggestions and discussions from the people who joined us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kaz, over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Samkelo. Thank you, BPESA, and to everyone that's joined here today. I am really privileged and honored to have shared from my point of view and to join these discussions. I think the journey to inclusion does not happen overnight. It has to start with a conversation. Continuing on that would be to raise awareness, to remove the stigma and the stereotype that surrounds disability, and to have a resource to continue the journey to inclusion. And we are able to support and assist in any way, shape, or form. So I am available. I have put my details in the chat box. Feel free to connect with me, or even through BPESA as partners. I'm really, really pleased to have been a part of this session today. Thank you.
And Chanel, Kaz, Zoe, and Marlene, you've all been stars, and all of you have been excellent. We're going to end the session right now. Those of you who are driving, please drive safely. My only challenge is also for me as well. Whenever you are in a room, you are in a restaurant, you are in a movie theater, you are in a bar, you are in a church, ask yourself this question. I wonder who's here or next to me who's either physically disabled or mentally disabled. In your normal day-to-day settings, just ask yourself that question. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised at the disability that you don't necessarily pick up, and how can you accommodate those people? You might put a link, write something on LinkedIn, but other people are not able to read what you've written as well. So thank you. The session is going to end, but the journey, as Claiborne will remind us, that journey for looking after people who are disabled does not stop here. Thank you so much, colleagues, and I wish you all the best for the rest of your life. And also, as you know, my bonus is guaranteed. Apparently, the session also went very well. Thank you so much, colleagues. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.